Welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. I've done this video a couple of times and it's kind of hard to do it without sounding like a complete tinfoil conspiracy nut. So be prepared. How do you trust the truth sayers when they can't access the truth? And what I mean by that, when I talk about truth sayers, I'm not talking about the media. I'm not talking about the corporate media, the internationalists, the cosmopolitans, the transnational corporate media. You know, you look at people like Jeff Bezos and Lizard Boy, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jack Dorsey, and they didn't make their money and then go sit at the table with a farmer. They didn't make their billions of dollars and go sit at the table in the Union Hall. You don't see them at the VFW. You don't see them at the American Legion chicken barbecue. You see them at Davos. You see them in the panels, on the panels, in the dinners, talking to the richest and most internationalist of people. They control your information. The idea of an independent internet. Well, what happens when the people who get power, fame, wealth through that independent internet make it not independent? Mark Zuckerberg proudly engages in censorship. He's just controlling misinformation for your own good, because you're not smart enough to handle this on your own. You're not smart enough to handle the subtle programs of propaganda. Whose propaganda? Whose programs? What is it you're not smart enough to handle? Because the media lies. The corporate media lies. It's not, this idea, fake news, the MSM, whatever you want to call it, it's belittled, ridiculed, and derided by the people on their side, by the people who are served by them. When you talk about fake news or the MSM, the people who argue against it have something to gain in arguing against it. They're not nonpartisan, they're not unbiased. They are people who benefit from corporatism in their favor. They don't want independence of thought. They don't want your independence. They don't want liberty. They want control. They want their view of the world to be paramount. And they have control. This is the part where I'm going to start sounding like a little bit of a nutcase, so if you got any tinfoil, put it on so my mind control rays don't infect you. You know. Alternatively, send an email to Mark Zuckerberg. Ask him if this is an appropriate channel. Whatever. These people have engaged in a campaign that has been going on for more than a decade, but which has ramped up over the past 6 to 8 years to control every aspect of your informational universe. This goes back 50s, 60s. We've had the best psychology on how to control people comes out of the marketing industry. They know how to get a 6-month-old person addicted to McDonald's French fries without ever having tasted them. Okay? I'm not joking. The information's out there. It's funny because the libertarians who think that they have free will and free minds argue against it when I say things. Like, people have their free will removed. People can have self-responsibility only if they can have a self. Libertarians don't like that. But these are the same people who blow smoke in my face and tell me it's their right because there's no proof that my dislike of smoke in my face is harmful. Non-aggression principle? Sure, whatever. Your information landscape is controlled and constrained. It is controlled and constrained to the point where people who want to be free thinkers, people who want their own information sources, people who want the raw data, are hamstrung at every turn. It honestly gets to the point sometimes where you are not just derided. Say, I want these numbers. I want the raw data. It's always something where, we're doing the election fight right now. Well, I want proof of fraud before we investigate. But if I want the CDC's raw data on their proclamations, no, I don't deserve it. The experts have it. Sure. So your information landscape is tightly constrained. There are some ways to get real information sometimes, but even for the most free-thinking person, it's really difficult. It's really time-consuming and hard. There's no Walter Cronkites left, Don Lemon is not a journalist, okay? He doesn't know how to do any research. If I presented him with some basic data points and told him to fit a curve, and the curve didn't match whatever CNN published that day, he would deny the existence of the data. He's not a journalist. What I'm getting at, the really hard part, even the truth-sayers, even the rebels, don't have access to the truth. Now, that's not meant to say give up and live in the 1984 of the international elites, okay? The people who hate Donald Trump, farmers, conservative America, the people who want to tell you that it is democracy when they rule you and tell you what's good for you. Don't give up. Don't give in. But understand that as much as they lie to you, they also constrain your reality. I'm not an Ayn Rand fan, okay? She's a person who I don't have a lot of arguments with her personal philosophy for herself, but the extension to groups doesn't work very well. But she wrote a book, and it was possibly, it's the most important but least well known of her books. It's a very short story. And in that story, it's called Anthem. Someone discovers the forbidden word, a new concept. It changes their entire reality, and that word is I. Just the idea of self-identification has been, in that world, constrained to the point where you don't know the word. You don't have the concept. And so, here we are. For the most part, we don't even have a concept of natural health. I'm just going to pull this down for a minute because it's one of the easier things to describe to people. What happens if you go out in the sun? Well, you shouldn't do that. You get cancer. Sunlight's bad for humans. What? Where do you come from that the first thing you do is deny nature? No evidence. Look, we've been in the sun for millions of years. If all of a sudden there's a cancer problem, you don't blame the sun. You look at what factors have changed. And the primary factors that have changed are environmental. Industrial age, pollution, processed food. This isn't hard. This isn't even difficult, but most people who I say this to really won't comprehend it. They won't believe. I can say, the sun never caused cancer before, why should it now? And their response is, well, the doctors say so. And then I say, well, did the doctors look at industrial age pollutants? There's no studies to prove that, therefore it's not true. Logic. In the world of information constraint, one of the biggest tools is constraining your ability to think. Okay? You deny the existence of anything that cannot be proven unless an authority tells you. Then, disproof, or proof of the negative, is the responsibility of someone else, and you don't even have to accept their data. How do you think? If that's actually how you're trained, how do you think? Right now, social media has become the main, and Google searches, other massaged information delivery, have become the primary method for you to interface with broader reality. You don't know anything about the economy except by what you are told. And if you are told that everything in the economy that appears to be going well is wrong, is bad, and that everyone else is suffering and you're an outlier because you're doing well, and the tax cuts that you got aren't really tax cuts. You see, you didn't get a bigger welfare check, so therefore you didn't pay less in taxes. If you're told all of this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I mean every media outlet, all the time, never ending, well, how do you know any different? And if you suspect that they're wrong because everyone around you is doing well, how do you get access to the information? If you find a piece of information, say from the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, they produce a lot of information, and you take it out and you try to discuss it, someone comes in, some tanky, some socialist comes in and shows you, or attempts to show you, how it's completely wrong and inaccurate and doesn't mean what you think it means because you're dumb. You have no way of getting the raw information and getting an analysis of the information. If you can get the raw information at all. And then, if you do, they tell you it's wrong. They tell you that you don't have real information. 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4. We're at a point right now where it looks like part of an election was swung through media manipulation. Three main focal points on that. One is that the media conglomerates, the multinational oligopoly. It's like an oligarchy, but it's a polity. The media cartels, the billionaire internationalists, the globalist elites, who are mostly corporate, who mostly live off of you and take your money. They told you that there was no way Trump could win and that it was useless to fight. Now, did that have a huge effect on the Trump base? Maybe, maybe not. On non-committed Republicans? Probably. There was probably a couple of percentage points of difference. Lower fundraising, lower volunteer turnout, because the media has told you. They have no basis for this. There was no rationale for their dire predictions. In fact, their dire predictions never happened. 1. 2. They controlled your information flow. There is a significant and worrisome amount of evidence that we have actual compromise to our national sovereignty and national security through the Biden family. More than enough evidence to seriously investigate, to be headline news, to be like, whoa, maybe not this time. Maybe not this time. For an election. Got silenced. Completely silenced. 100% silenced. Now, most people on the left are going to detract and say that this doesn't matter because nationalism is bad. There shouldn't be a threat to the United States because the concept of the United States is bad. Whatever. Go fuck yourself. The information was suppressed. Completely, totally suppressed. And third, there is a denial. There's an attempt to deny the process. Okay? The entire method and practice of our elections in numerous states changed without legislative input or with legislative runarounds in an emergency fashion within the last couple of months before an election. And the excuse is coronavirus. And it's a poor excuse. Okay? Maybe New York. I mean, you take a couple big cities, 11% of our population, 40% of the deaths from coronavirus. Obviously, Democrat stronghold large cities are a very dangerous place to be. And it's not the lockdowns or the masks, it's something else. Because they're all locked down with masks. Unless those hurt, something else is going on. Coronavirus isn't it. So why can't you go vote? Why do you need an emergency method? What's going on? All of this change happens, and then the media reports it as if any resistance to this change is suppression. Any desire for a regular election is tyranny. Where do you find the truth when the truth-tellers can't access the truth? You have to start with your hands. You have to remember the Greek ideal. You have to apply your mind to your hands. Go look. Go do stuff. Socially, ostracism is a huge, strong, powerful weapon. I suggest you just get away from people who do that, from people who listen to mainstream media. Don't have the discussion. Don't engage. This is hard on families, but we're setting up for the type of world where your family will turn on you and put you in a camp. And I'm not overspeaking. I'm not overstating. So maybe, less conversation with people in the family who can't talk about reality. Or no news. If you're going to talk about something, it has to be something you can touch with your own hands. Go change the oil in the car together. That's family time. There's always going to be social groups with social pressure, and that's part of humanity, and you can't live alone with that complete isolation. So pick your group. Pick a group that values freedom. There's going to be intolerance. There's going to be times where you have to push back. But if at least the ideal of free speech is stated, then you're in a better spot than modern academia, modern left, modern social media. I don't know. Go find your group. Go find a tribe. Stay sideways and don't trust the internet.